morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on where you're from. Where I'm from, it's still morning. Hi, everybody. I'm Diana from Build a Quilt. Welcome into our Quilt and Coffee Chat live on Fridays, every other Friday, actually. Let me see. I need to take that banner down. There we go. Every other Friday, basically, we meet. In fact, let's see. Do I still have that list up here? I don't think I still have my list up where I can show you, but if you go to the community forum section of our YouTube channel, there is a post that gives you all the dates that we'll be meeting for Quilt and Coffee Chat Fridays during 2025. So check that out if you want to know when we are coming up next. In fact, let me grab my calendar so that I can remind us all at the end of the week. Today is the 24th. Yep. So our next one is actually going to be, in February. Interesting. We're already getting ready to go into the second month of the year. Anyway, good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. Let me see, who do we have with us so far? If you haven't yet, sign in. Let us know where you're viewing from. I love to see where folks are viewing from. Hi, Sue. Our good friend Sue Varner is here. So glad to see you today, Sue. And Lisa is here. Hi, Lisa, watching from NOLA. So, Lisa, did you get the 8 inches of snow? We saw that. Now, I used to live in Pensacola many years ago, but for about 6 months or so, I worked over in New Orleans while my husband was in flight school out in Seattle, where I eventually moved to, and we never saw that kind of snow there. Well, the whole time we were in Pensacola at like 1.5 inches, that was it, and they closed the whole town down. So I'm guessing it's kind of crazy for you guys with that kind of snow right now. So, because I know if you don't know about snow, it's kind of freaky to drive on it and be around it, but I love it. So I wish it had come here. I would have taken your snow. Quilting on, hi, good morning, lurking from Bend, Oregon. Hey, I know Bend, Oregon really well from living out in the Pacific Northwest for several decades, and love it out there. Beautiful area. Glad you're with us. Mary, she is excuse me, my tongue got tied, viewing from cold and snowy Vermont. Now, I love the state of Vermont. In fact, Vermont is one place that I have, ever since I was like junior high age, I've always wanted to live there. Now I'm in my 60s. I still haven't, but I visited there. It's a beautiful state. Love it. So glad you could be with us, Mary. Faye from Maryland. Hey, Faye from Maryland. In fact, I do know Maryland very well. My nephew and his wife and children live out there. And when my father was in the Navy, we spent time in Maryland quite a bit. It's a beautiful state. Love it. And Rose Marie is from us. Rose, hi, Rose. And she's right here from Illinois, where I'm at. I'm coming from the north central part of Illinois. And yeah, it's 16 degrees. It's at least that cold here too. It's 15 here actually right now, Rose. So we are having that cold weather still. However, I hear tomorrow we're supposed to get up to a whole 36 degrees. Lisa says, yes, 8 inches of snow. Beautiful, but looking forward to warmer weather. I'm sure you guys are. I mean, if you live in a warm state, the weather, right, is part of the reason you live there. You love that. Or if you were born there and stayed there, part of it is because you love the weather there. So you guys that are getting that cold, snowy weather and the icy weather and please stay safe, everybody. All righty. So today for Quilt and Coffee Chat Live, so you know that this is it's not a repeat of what we do on Wednesday workshop, but I do give you a few of the announcements. But then today, I always like to start off the year making sure I have all the tools that I need. And with Build a Quilt, there's really very few tools that you need. It's not like in the other traditional quilting scenarios where you need tons of templates and things like that, because everything gets built into that digital file. And so, but there are some things that you can get that some of you may already have around the house. So I have some fun things. This is kind of a fun light day for that, to show you all that today. But as we do, whether it's Wednesday or Friday, we always start out with some quilting meme or cartoon or whatever you wish to call it. But as you're jumping on, folks, please continue to tell us where you're watching from today and introduce yourself. We'd love to know who you are. But here is our cartoon or meme for today. Whoever said Disney was the happiest place has never been to a fabric store. Isn't that true? I love that. I personally, although I have nothing against Disney, I'm not Disney obsessed like a lot of my friends are. And that's fine if you are. If you love Disney that much, hey, go for it. I have an uncle that lives like an hour from Disney World, and I have an aunt that lives 30 minutes from Disneyland. And can you believe neither one of them have ever in my life taken me to Disney? I've never been to either. Although my family has actually taken my husband, Dave, to Disneyland. Can you believe that? They took him and not me. That's because I was in Florida, living in Florida, and he was getting ready to show up at the Navy base in Seattle, or on Whidbey Island at that time. And so they took him there for a treat. And so I'm glad. My parents, my brother, they've all gone. But I have never been to either. But I will say, I do love a good Disney movie for sure. Like I said, I have nothing against Disney. But my happy place would definitely be a fabric shop. I could stand in a fabric shop and pet the fabric for hours on end. How about you guys? What do you guys think? Disney or a fabric store? Be honest. Let us know in the comments. Which is your favorite place on earth, Disney or a fabric shop? So that's our meme for today. And I thought I would show you. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys answer over in the comments. Which is your happy place, Disney or a fabric shop? Or maybe they both are. Can't you have more than one fabric place or more than one happy place? I think so, because my other happy place is like going to a beach. My husband loves the mountains, and so do I. But I really, if you say we're going to go and spend the day at the beach, I'm there for sure, even though I have a sun allergy. Now I have to wear like long sleeves and basically dip myself in zinc oxide. I still would rather be the beach than anywhere else. Sue says her favorite place is a fabric store for sure. I agree with you, Sue. For sure, I do. All righty. You can keep answering that if you like. Excuse me, my eye's itching there. And I want to talk to you about what we started on Wednesday night. We started the easiest quilt ever. Now, I said on Wednesday night, I like to start the year out with a very simple quilt along that we can do for a few months, right? Because we get a lot of new people joining us at the beginning of the year. They've maybe made it as a resolution. They finally want to start quilting. Yay, we're glad. We're always thrilled about having new quilters with us. Or what happened last year is a lot of quilters who had been quilting for a long time and ended up with some hand problems or some visual problems had to give up a hobby that they loved so much. But they found Build a Quilt, and because you don't have the same repetitive stress and you don't have to worry about precision quite so much because everything is built into the digital files, they found us, and they're like having a whole new grand and glorious time quilting again. I love that. So I like to start the beginning of the year with something simple. And we started Wednesday night, the easiest quilt you'll ever make. Okay. And so I'm going to show it to you, and I'm going to show you how we're doing. Now, in order to do it at our website, and I'll share this information with you later, you do need to own our Build a Quilt Basics combo set. In that set, you get a square segment, a half square triangle, a quarter square triangle, split rail, flying geese, and diamond in a square. And each one of those comes in 3 or 4 sizes each. You get the cut sheet, the coloring sheet so that you can play with color, all that information, and there's a complete how-to video. It is on sale until the end of the month. There's like $10 off of it until the end of the month. And so you do need this because you are going to be using the 5-inch square, okay? That is the segment we're going to be using for this quilt. And when you see this block, you're going to go, man, that's simple. And it is. Here's our block. It's just a 4-patch, you guys, but we're going to be making a different 4-patch of squares each and every week based on colors that you guys have chosen. So let me just show you. Here's a little piece. A 5-inch square, there we go, 5-inch square times 4 equals one 10 by 10 inch block. And that's the size blocks we're making. Plus we're going to be doing some sashing. Again, just with this one segment piece. So by the time you've made this quilt, you are going to be so expert at doing build a quilt. It's not even going to be funny. So these colors were chosen based on, we're using Sarah Renee Clark's Color Cube cards, because the Color Cube cards are really great because she gives you a picture and then she pulls the colors from it here. And on the back, she gives you those colors. I'm always bad at doing this backwards. The colors in their light, medium, and dark variations so that you can choose kind of what you want. So look at how well the colors in my fabrics ended up from that card. Okay, so I chose this color card to get us started. And then at the end of the evening, I showed you all several color cards and you guys voted. And so the colors we're using for next week's 4-patch block is this one right here. And I talked about the idea that I probably won't use black as a solid block in this. I would probably use these colors. However, if you have a print and the print has some black outlining, that's a way to get more color into your piece. So if you notice on this block, each of these blocks have some color from here. But this one right here, this is a piece of Tula Pink fabric that I've had for a while, has every color you see there is in that piece. And so when you're looking for colors for next week's block, look for ones that have black in it. That will give that block a little bit of a pop to it. But I wouldn't use like a solid black block. That's just my thought. But listen, remember, I always say you're the artist when you're making your quilt, so you can certainly do what you like. And a picture, again, at the community forum page here on the YouTube channel, has a picture of this, so you can make this week's block. And this card is on there as well, so you can see the colors for next week's block. And next week I'll post a new picture and we'll vote on a new set of colors, a whole new range of colors. And whatever they are is because you guys get to pick them. So you get to be involved in this. And as I said, everybody's quilt is going to be in the same color idea, but nobody's quilt will look the same, because I wanted to design this quilt for us so that you could shop your stash. Because I know it's the winter. I know I live 2 hours away from a fabric shop, so it's hard for me to get there, especially in the winter. And I'll be honest, I have a ton of fabric in my stash. So I'm shopping my stash for this whole quilt. It's not just going to be row after row after row of squares either. There's actually a design to it, but you have to keep with us in order to find out what that is. We're also going to be doing some sashing. Next week, we're going to start adding a couple sashing pieces into the mix as well. So let's see. Let me check out over our comments here. I think we have a few more things. Best place is, Quiltanon says, best place is in the quilt room. It's already padded. I love that. Yes, for sure it is padded. I think you're right. I think being in your quilting room, getting to do something you love is probably one of the happiest places to be too. I agree completely. And Lisa says, both fabric and beach. You're also allergic to the sun, UV clothing. Lisa, if you can send me some links when I give the the email address at the end of where you buy your UV clothing, I would be grateful. Because I have to do that kind of stuff, like when I'm out gardening, when we go for walks, and I run. One of the reasons I run early in the morning every day is because I don't have to wear a bunch of sun stuff, because I literally run right as the sun is starting to come up. So I can get away with it. But I would love to know where you get your UV clothing. And I have hats too, but I would love to know about your hats as well. So at the end, when I give that information, if you wouldn't mind sending it to me, I would be very appreciative. Thank you so much. And then also on Wednesday, so that's the quilt along we've started. Super simple. And the other reason I made it simple, folks, is because we're going to work on the finished quilting, the quilting the whole piece together, the whole quilt sandwich together And this is going to give you a really nice, easy background for doing that. Okay. And you're going to end up with a great throw size quilt at the end. One of those great ones that you might want to gift to a tween or a teen or a child. Or maybe you have an elderly family member that lives in assisted living. This quilt will be wonderful for them because they're going to get to see a lot of color, and that's really good for brain activity to see color and be able to pick out color and stuff like that. It's also one of those great ones that you can keep in the living room when it gets dirty. It's not, the piecing wasn't so fancy that you really get upset about having to wash it. Sorry to hear about the sun. You can't imagine. Yeah, thank you, Quilton. Thank you so much. Yeah, I love the sun. My mother is the same way. My mother is allergic as well. She just goes and gets a cortisone shot every year, a couple times a year. But the doctors told her that's really not the best thing in the world for you to do constantly. You need to be careful and use your lotions and stuff. And my mother refuses to do it. So what can I say? It's her choice. But my mother is not as fair as I am. So my mother had, her skin is as fair as mine is, but for some reason she tans, and I'm more like my father. I burn to a crisp, but that didn't keep me when I was a teenager from using iodine and baby oil and laying out in the sun every day of the summer and was a lifeguard, that kind of thing. So anyway, but thank you. I appreciate your line there, your comment. All right. The other thing I showed you guys on Wednesday night was Pantone's new color of the year. So you're going to see this throughout the year. I picked a color card just so I could show it to you with a picture. This is the color right here. It's called Mocha Frost. Isn't it lovely? It's such a great neutral. And when you go lighter with it, it really becomes a beautiful background neutral. You can go darker with it, and it's going to really add some dimension to your quilting. So you're going to see me using the Mocha Frost a little bit throughout the year. But that was Wednesday night. Okay, that was pretty much what we did Wednesday night. Oh, let me just show you too. I pulled a sample of a single square block. That's the size blocks you're making. These go really quickly. I can tell you that I made my 4-patch in about, from beginning to end, in about 10-12 minutes. That was from cutting my fabric to sewing it together, the whole 9 yards. And so check out Wednesday night's video, Wednesday night's live, for all the full information and some links to some videos that will help you if you're brand new, that like how-to videos, okay, for the demos. But that's it. That's how easy this quilt is going to be. We're going to be doing other quilt alongs. They're not going to be that easy. So you might want to take advantage of an easy one as we go. Trust me though, with Build a Quilt, even things that are more complex, I don't like to say hard, I like to say complex, are super easy because the technique is easy and all that precision stuff gets built in for us. So I love it that way. All righty. Now let's chat about tools. Okay. And the reason I brought this up today is because one of our lovely viewers and friends here at Build a Quilt, a friend of Build a Quilt, sent me a couple of pictures I'm going to show you with an idea that she uses with a bread knife. Stay tuned. I'm not going to show you that one first though. So you guys know that at the end of every year, the end of every August, September timeframe, I do a big IKEA video. And I do it specifically on specific products and how to help you organize and set up your sewing space, whether it's really small or a larger space, because you guys know I'm IKEA crazy. My whole home is basically from IKEA and has been for almost 2 decades now. And so my cases in here, my cutting table, my sewing machine, all that stuff is IKEA. So I bring you that big video every year. But normally I don't like go to the dollar store or Harbor Freight and stuff like that specifically to do videos on this channel. Although I have found some products there that I like now that have saved me money. And so I want to share some of those with you because I am of the opinion, since I've been quilting for over 55 years, I am of the opinion that quilting doesn't need to be horribly expensive. Okay, especially if you've already spent the money on an embroidery machine or a sewing machine combo. that should be the most expensive thing you have to do. Of course, ongoing purchase of your fabric and wash away stabilizer, but because you don't have to buy all the other tools we need for other quilting techniques, that stabilizer purchase comes out to be less than what you would spend on everything else. So it's really a win-win there. So I wanted to show you, this I guess is what inspired our friend of Build a Quilt to show me that thing. And that is a bent cake spatula. This is for frosting, to put your frosting on, to get things so that you can get into corners and all. That's why it's got that angle there. Okay. However, what I like to use it for, when we're doing things on our embroidery machine, this could be Build a Quilt, this could be just machine embroidery. Sometimes you have to flip, with Build a Quilt, you have to flip your fabric over and you might want to hold it down, or you might want to hold an edge instead of using fabric tape. A lot of times we're told to use a stiletto. I find a stiletto to be entirely too small to do the job. It never really holds the stuff down. That's my concern. I like stilettos for some things, but I don't like it for that idea. But I do like one of these small. So this one I think this is, yeah, it says on here, it's wilted. And I'm sure I got it at Michael's or maybe Walmart, but I'm sure I got it there. And it's not one of the big full length ones because that was really too big, but this smaller one, and let me see, that bent blade is, so this part is basically 4 inches. I love it because it gives me something to grip that I'm not going to accidentally drop. Sometimes with smaller things, I drop them. So I've got a nice handle to grip, and this is nice and flat. It's about, it's probably, is it an inch wide? No, it's about 3/4 of an inch wide. And you can lay it flat and pull your stuff, or lay it on a corner and hold stuff down, and you can get it to lay flatter for you. Now, if you use fabric glue when you flip and you hold things down, that's fine too. But sometimes at the end, when we do the whole stitch around and we're going to do, I tell you to use the tape, you could just use this and move it around as your needle moves, and then you wouldn't have to use tape. So I like this. And with this, I'm not having to continually buy tape. So it's like a one and done purchase. Okay. So I still use some tape, but when I can use this, especially with it being longer, like if I have a side that I'm holding down, this will hold down a whole 4-inch piece of a side, which is for most things, most of the segment piece. And so it's a one and done. You purchase it and you're done. And I'm sure you don't have to buy the Wilton one. I just found it one day when I was at the store and liked this size, but you could find, I'm sure, an off brand that is even less than probably what I paid for this, but I know I used a coupon for this because I buy everything with a coupon if I have it. So that was thing one. And the other thing that this can take the place of is a seam roller. Okay. Now with a seam roller, I like them when I'm like at my cutting table and I'm pressing things open and I want to give it a final little opening and press and really get it nice. I like this. However, when I just need to press a seam down when I flip my fabric, when I'm in the hoop at the machine, this for me actually works a little bit better. I can flip it, slide it, press it, and done. And this fits. It fits under the foot of the machine. So your needle would be up and this would slide underneath really easily. Whereas with a seam roller, you have to take your hoop out and put it on a flat surface to really get it to work properly. So that's another reason I like this. Okay, so this kind of takes the place of 2 other tools. Okay, so well, 3 if you consider the tape. So that's a great savings. Okay. Now, the other thing I did find this, I'm pretty sure, at Harbor Freight, because we have a Harbor Freight in our town now. And I am the world's biggest gadget person. So I'm always looking for things that I can use in my room. Is this, like, it telescopes, and this end is a magnet. So if I drop a screw or a pin or something, like I'm unscrewing my hoop and I accidentally drop that little nut, I don't even have to get up from my chair. I just use this. It's a couple of bucks, literally a couple of bucks. So it telescopes. You can use it long or short. There we go. And it's got like a little, you can see it's got like a little grip here. So you get a nice hold onto it. I love it. I have one here because I'm forever dropping something. And I have one out in my kitchen too. And this, in fact, I used it the other day. I dropped a little small spoon down the side between the cabinet and my stove. The only way I was getting it was either to pull the stove out or use my handy dandy magnet wand. So this is not replacing anything that's probably already in your room, but this is a nice little gadget to have around for when we drop those things. Pins, it works great on pins. Let me see if I can get this one. Yeah, there we go. It works great on pins and needles and all that kind of stuff. So that's my 2 cents on that one. Now, here's another thing. When you're quilting, sometimes you want to clamp your quilt. Like I have a bar on my ceiling with bungee cords on it. And at the end of them, see, I'm dropping stuff already. I have these things. They're little bitty clamps. Again, these were from Harbor Freight, and I think I got like 6 or 8 of them for a couple of bucks. They're pretty easy to use with my hand. Okay. And I use those so that when I'm quilting, I'm putting the bulk of my quilt up high, making sure there's enough slack so that it's laying flat on my machine, and I do my finished quilting. And then I adjust. Okay. You could also use, see how big is this? This is a 2-inch binder clip. And you can get these in sets too. And these are great for helping you control your quilt sandwich when you're doing your finished quilting. Both of these are inexpensive. They have clamps just like these that are in pretty colors marketed to us as quilters, but you get like 4 of them for 20 bucks. I got like 6 or 8 of them for 3 maybe bucks. Big difference. And they're the same thing. And they have a little hole in them if you need to hang them. So these things can save you money and do the same thing. I know sometimes it is hard to resist all the stuff that gets marketed to us when it's in pretty colors. I get that, especially because you guys know how much I'm attracted to color. But sometimes I just have to bite the bullet and get something that maybe isn't so pretty, but that isn't going to cost me an arm and a leg, because I don't use these very often, just when I'm in my finished quilting mode, right? So that's my idea for helping you with finished quilting. Now, there's one other thing. You guys have seen these, right? The little magnetic bowls. They're marketed to us as magnetic pin cushions. So you can see I've got a pin in there, and I've got some of my quilting for when I'm basting, my basting pins in there. I've got a couple of little Allen wrenches and stuff in there that I use. This sits in a drawer actually at my embroidery machine. So this exact dish by the company Dritz, which is a big sewing notions company, right? Been around forever. I have Dritz pin cushions, the tomato one. Like when I first started sewing in school, when I had to go to school, I started sewing as a young kid at home with my mom. But when I took a sewing class in school, you had to go out and buy supplies. Dritz was the company we bought all of our notions from. And so this exact bowl, magnetic bowl from Dritz, retails for $15.99. This is from Harbor Freight, $4.99. It is exactly the same one. Now, if silver isn't your thing, and because there are lots of this exact dish out there with different color paint to make them pretty, pink and aqua and blue. And you guys know how much I love those aqua colors, right? That can range as much as $24 I've seen them sell for. If you really want something like this in a pretty color, tape up the bottom. Just use painter's tape and tape up the bottom. Buy yourself an inexpensive enamel paint, canned spray paint at your local hardware store. and buy the $4.99 ones and paint them the color you really want. Maybe aqua and pink and those colors aren't your color. Maybe you want a really bright red one, or maybe you want a blue one or a green one or a yellow one. Paint them yourself, let them dry, and that enamel paint is what they use on these that are specialty made and marketed to us, but you're not spending near the money and it's doing the exact same thing for you. So $4.99 from Harbor Freight, the exact same silver one from Dritz, $15.99. So that's a huge difference, guys. So I'm trying to save you a little bit money on your tools there. All right, now we are to the last one, the bread knife. Can you guys guess? In fact, let me know over in the comments if you can guess what our friend of Build a Quilt sent me the pictures of, what she uses a bread knife for. And I'd never thought of it, but it's kind of genius. It's kind of an idea of having this flat, thin blade. But this is used for something very specific. Can any of you guys guess? If you can, let me know in the comments. A bread knife. And my bread knife is old. It's probably 12 years old. But I have another bread knife that I use in the kitchen. So this one I have now put into my quilting room. The bread knife. Anybody guess? You have to, Quiltanon says she has to have that. What do you have to have, dear? Let me know which product do you have to have. And she says she has no idea about the bread knife. Trust me, I didn't either. But once she told me, I'm like, well, doggone it. I should have thought of that. Okay, you guys ready? I'm going to show you the picture. Let me bring it up. Let's see. Let me share my screen. Let me bring up my picture. Here we go. How to use a bread knife to remove bird nests. Now, truly, when you're doing Build a Quilt, in the thousands of pieces I've made for Build a Quilt, I've never had a bird's nest, because remember, with Build a Quilt, you're getting your embroidery machine basically to act like a sewing machine and do all that precision for you so that you don't have to on the sewing machine, because we're doing that straight run stitch for most of the work, right? However, I'm still a machine embroiderer as well. I love embroidery. I love occasionally digitizing something up, making a little gift or something for someone we know. And sometimes you do get bird nest, or sometimes your machine might get something caught under it and everything gets stuck. So the one thing you have to do is try and get your needle up. That's always the case. Sometimes you actually have to take it out, undo the screw and remove it, all that. But when you get a bird's nest, there is always fabric or thread stuck under the plate where the bobbin case lives, right? She uses her bread knife. She slides it under the hoop, as you can see let me bring up my bigger picture. Sorry. She slides it under the hoop. And then she literally, if you can see it better in this picture, she actually uses it as a sideways saw to cut through all the thread and any stabilizer fabric or whatever. And then she said that she just puts a little piece of stabilizer underneath there, a new little piece under there, and continues on with her work if it leaves a hole, she said. That's a brilliant idea, because again, so let's take the picture down for a moment. So again, the bread knife is nice and flat. And because it's long, and this time, unlike with the spatula where you want something short like that, with the bread knife, you want it long because you want it to be able to get underneath there. And then she just, can you kind of see that? Slides it back and forth, and that kind of works as a saw to release those threads. Then, of course, take out your hoop, take off your plate, remove anything that's underneath there, check your needle. A lot of times when that happens, even if you can't visually see it, a lot of times the ends of your needles will get bent. At that point, if I ever have a bird's nest, I always, I don't even think about it, I change my needle. Because if it is even a little bit bent down at the point, it can cause your stitches not to stitch right, believe it or not. And so if you ever get a bird's nest, that's my tip for you. Go ahead and change your needle at the same time. But get all that compartment cleaned out, put everything back together, maybe do that little patch on the back of your hooped project, and then you're off to the races again. And I always check too. Let's talk about bird nests for a moment. When I get them, I always kind of check out why this may have happened. One thing is my needle might have already been a little cattywampus or bent or something to start with. That could have caused my problem. I could have, if I'm doing regular, I could be having a problem with tension. Tension is typically not a huge problem with embroidery because they're really set to auto tension on their own, unlike our sewing machines where a lot of times we adjust our tension more on a individual basis. So it's typically not tension, but it could be that you weren't hooped well with your stabilizer and it was sagging a little more. Every piece of stabilizer you put in is going to have a little bit of give to it, and you want it to keep the hoop from popping apart. But maybe you didn't quite get the screw on the hoop tight enough, and so it's really been loosening up and something got drawn down into the compartment. So I always try to figure out what might have caused my bird's nest so I can fix it right then, like changing the needle. Checking my thread. Sometimes you will get a bird's nest if you are at the very end of a spool of thread. That to me is when I typically get my bird's nest, is I'm down to maybe the last 3 or 4 yards of thread on my spool because it's not as tightly wound. It has started to loosen up a little bit, and that's when I end up getting a bird's nest. So I check all of that stuff out. I start a new thread, I do a new needle, I do any patching, and then away I go again. So keep those things in mind. Maybe if you're like a lot of quilters I know or embroiderers, you have a little notebook and you keep little tips and stuff written down in there in case something happens. You're like, oh, let me go check. I think somebody told me something, but I can't remember. Then I check my little notebook and it's like, oh, do this, then this, then this, or maybe look at that. And that helps me kind of self-diagnose my problem. Because I'm 2 hours away from my maintenance tech, I have to self-diagnose quite often before I pack everything up and drive it 2 hours away. But that is what she uses the bread knife for. Now, I personally would say get yourself a bread knife that is exclusively a tool in your room. In fact, maybe even take a black Sharpie marker and write on there, for quilting room use only, do not touch, just like you might with your good scissors. Because even though I might clean this, I don't want to be using this with my bread and then with my quilting stuff because there's glue and dirt and stuff. So I wouldn't do that. But that is the tip. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Rose, was this your tip, dear? I'm thinking maybe it was. Is this your tip, Rose? Let me know. If you're still in the room, let me know if this was your tip, because I think it was you. I forgot to look when I downloaded the pictures because I downloaded them for last Wednesday and because we had to cancel. What brand of wash away do I use? I'm checking messages here. Sue asks, what brand of wash away do I use? Now, you guys know that I highly recommend, because we use a 5x7 hoop, I use, oh, this one's kind of wrinkled because I had it stuffed in there from something else, a pre-cut or a roll. To be honest, there is a company out on Amazon. I am not quite sure of their name. It's kind of a number thing. And I buy it from them. Very inexpensive. I think I get 100 sheets, $25 maybe, which is less, because if I buy a package of 25 or 50 in a name brand and it's the same stuff, I'm spending $39 to $40. So it's a lot less expensive. In fact, I've been trying to get a hold of this company to see if we can't maybe order this in bulk and start packaging it in or have them package it in larger amounts for Build a Quilt. and if they would sell it that way. Because sometimes I order a ton in advance so that I have it in stock, and that makes them run out sometimes on Amazon. And then I tell you guys, go and buy it, and they don't have it available. So I am trying to get a hold of them. But the last time I tried, they were at a show and we have missed spaces, but I need to get back on that. So I don't know the brand, but let me tell you, you don't need an expensive name brand wash away stabilizer, Sue. You absolutely do not. Because most of them with this kind of stabilizer, there's like two textures that I've seen out there. They both do the same thing. They both work the same way. And this is one of them. And so this is probably somebody just selling that same product in bulk under a kind of a, when you go to the grocery store and you can buy a can of Del Monte corn or Piggly Wiggly corn. Some of you in the South will remember Piggly Wiggly. Believe it or not, we had a Piggly Wiggly here in Illinois when I was growing up. I always had a nightmare that my mother left me there. I don't know why. My poor mom. But I used to love to go to the Piggly Wiggly with her. But so you can buy what we would call the name brand or the store brand. It's all the same, but the stores buy it in a larger bulk, and sometimes maybe it's just relabeled at the canning factory. They can sell it cheaper in the stores. Same idea with this. This is tough, right? Very tough. Pushing my thumbnail with my nail in it, not going through. It works fine. Because believe it or not, with Build-A-Quilt, you don't need something really heavy duty, because again, we're only having our machine do a running stitch. I would do in fact, I do my freestanding lace with this. Sometimes the quality of your stabilizer will matter depending on the density or intricacy of the pattern that you might be embroidering. But with Build-A-Quilt, just this works, okay? I will try to find the link on Amazon and I will post it to the description section of this video later today. But to be honest, anyone you can find out there. So get whatever brand is most economical. That's my biggest tip for you. Okay. Great. I'm glad I answered that for you, Sue. Okay. Those were my tool tips. Now you guys know that my other talk about tools that you absolutely need is you need a good ruler, right? And this is, I've shown you this before. This is from Quilters Select. I am not paid to show you any of these. You guys know the only thing I'm an affiliate with now is the Color Cube because of how much I believe in it. Wasn't created for quilters, but it's a quilter's best friend when it comes to shopping for your fabric colors with confidence. You find a card with the colors that you like and you take it with you. You get those colors in your fabrics. You know your quilt's going to be beautiful. So I am an affiliate now for the Color Cube. That's brand new. But nothing else I've showed you am I paid for or sponsored or anything like that. Because I only show you things that I use and love, and that's why I decided to do that. They invited me to do that when I was talking to Sarah about having her come on for a chat with us on a Wednesday night, which she's going to do at the end of the year. But you can catch all that information on Wednesday. Anyway, this 3x12 Quilters Select is my absolute favorite ruler. It is the ruler that I use 99.9% of the time with Build-A-Quilt. I have one other one by them that is, I think, 6 or 9. It might be 12 inches, but it's 6 inches wide. I use that for cutting slightly wider pieces. But this one I use all the time. And it's really easy to see that 1/4 inch mark. And that's the one thing, no matter what brand ruler you use, you want to make sure you can easily detect your 1/4 inch mark. And I love this, that color behind it is a non-skid. This is a non-skid. I love that. So that is one you absolutely must have. And I can't believe I don't have my scissors over here. You guys know that my scissors that I love are by Karen K. Buckley. And you also know that we have a product here at Build-A-Quilt called the dust away machine cleaners. We've had these for a few years now. They're silicone. These are great for cleaning out your bobbin cases. I clean out all the little small things like the hand wheel on the side. I take this and go around it just to get any dust that's settled in there out of that. You can clean them, wash them, and put them back away. You get both of them, and they are in my favorite color. They're bendable. I like this little ball for getting into places as well. And those are available over at the website. You get both of them for something, I think, for the set. I think that's what they are. So, and I always recommend that you guys have these on hand or whatever you're going to use. And after every project, give your bobbin case and your machine a little clean around. It will save you in the end on maintenance. Trust me. Ask me how I know. I learned that lesson probably 8 years ago or so while I was still learning to digitize, and I was just really going pell-mell with my machine, making it really work hard for me while I was learning. And if I hadn't been cleaning as much as I should and ended up with about a $400 maintenance bill on my machine. These will save you that kind of money. You should still have your machine maintenance at least once a year, but this will help you keep everything tidy, okay? And that's what we like, is to be tidy with our machines. Alrighty, if you want good tools, you gotta take care of them, right? That's my thought. Alrighty, everybody, are you ready for the question of the week? It is not the same question of the week as we had on Wednesday. I always put out a new one so that there's a whole new question to answer in case you come on both days. And we will be sending you the winner a $5 coupon code to use over at the website. So it's good for all products, including the dustaways, except for the Build a Quilt Quilt Lab subscription for the year. Okay. All right. Here's our question. What is your favorite quilting tool? Do you have one? If I literally had to pick a tool that I never wanted to be without in my sewing room, there's two. They are my Karen K. Buckley scissors and this ruler. Anything else I could find a replacement for or figure out what to do with. But those two tools are my absolute favorite. Go ahead and answer over in the comments. We'll give you a little bit of time to do that. And when we're done, I'll spin the wheel over here and we will pick a winner for today, okay? Quiltanon says, oh, the magnetic wand. Quiltanon wants to get a magnetic wand. Trust me. Oh, you're going to love it. Even my husband got one out in his garage because he builds a lot for our local theater group. So he's got little nails and screws and all kinds of stuff. And everything's always going all over. And trust me, I don't want to tell you how many tires we've ended up losing on our car because he's lost things on the floor and they've ended up in our tires. So now, after every time he's out there working, I make him literally like walk back and forth with the wand, or I go out there and do it. And I always pick up stuff with that. So it's great to have in your garage as well. Harbor Freight, I think $3 or $4. I mean, really inexpensive and worth 10 times that, in my opinion. Okay, so let's see. Lisa says, and Kuna says, great idea and how ingenious. I think you guys are talking about, this is such a great idea. I love that idea. And while you guys are answering your question, what is your favorite tool? I'm going to check out and see if I can figure out who sent me those pictures. Ruth. It was not Rosemary. It was Ruth who sent me those. You guys know Ruth. She's usually with us on Wednesday night. Ruth sent me the pictures and the idea for this, which I absolutely loved. Okay. All right, guys. I don't know if we're having a trouble or not, but I'm not getting any answers on favorite tools. Oh, here we go. Quiltanon says 2 favorites, your cutting table and your ironing station. Husband recycled a piece of lumber and we put it on an old sewing machine cabinet. What a great idea. I love doing that. I love taking things that don't have any use in their original purpose and repurposing them for something in our sewing rooms. I love that idea. That's awesome. In fact, Quiltanon, would you please do me a favor and send me a picture at support@sewincommon.com. I'd love to show that to people because I'm all about repurposing and reusing stuff. So I would love if you wouldn't mind. Now, if you don't want to share, I understand, but I would love it if you could send me a picture at support@sewincommon.com and I will show it next Wednesday. Thank you. Oh, good. And Lisa says it's her iron. So Lisa, what kind of iron do you have that is your favorite tool? I'd love to know. You guys know I use the Alyssa irons, the big ones. I'm not a huge fan of the small ones, I must say. The minis, I have a couple of them, and they're too wide at the front to get into a small point, in my opinion. And my one never stays hot enough. And I always tell you guys, remember, we only ever want to iron or press between wool and silk, not up at the cotton end by any means. That's what starts getting things to wrinkle and scrunch in because it's pulling moisture and stuff out of fiber. So wool to silk, that's our pressing zone, okay, as quilters. I know that when I was growing up, it was always like, wet it down and put that cotton setting on there and just iron the snot out of it. That's really bad for your fabric long term. Your fabric will degrade over time much quicker from that much heat. So wool to silk. Okay, anybody else going to tell us what their favorite tool is? If not, because we're just about done, okay, I'm going to call it because I think you've had long enough to answer. Quiltanon and Lisa, you guys are both getting, I'm writing your names down. You are both going to get a $5 off coupon for the website. All right. So all you have to do is send me an email at support@sewincommon.com because I don't keep all this information. I don't want to be responsible for that, to be honest. And I want it to be safe for you guys. So send me an email that says Quilt and Coffee Chat live, Friday live winner, question of the week, Friday winner, something like that. Tell me something in the body that you want to tell me. Remind me what your favorite tool was. Send me your pictures, whatever you want to do. And either later today or tomorrow morning, because I know sometimes you walk away and you forget and you send me your email this evening, that's fine. But by tomorrow morning, I will have sent you your code. It is good for anything over at the website, except for the Quilt Lab subscription for this year. Thank you so much for playing the game. And let's see. Whoops. I'm going to come back here. So support@sewincommon.com. And just so you all know, our website is www.mybuildaquilt.com. You can check out all of our patterns over there. This is our January pattern, the Crystal Star. Very easy pattern. It comes when you get your pattern set, you get it, the digital files for 3 sizes. You get all the cut information for what size you cut your pieces for your segments. You get your layout information. You get your coloring sheet so you can color and test out colors before you start to cut your fabric. Always do your coloring sheet before you cut to make sure you're going to like those colors as much as you think you will once they're in that form, right? So like, I'll just pull last Wednesday's block. Maybe I picked all of these and I chose different places that I wanted to put them on. And when I looked at them in this form, this star form, it's like, those don't look as great as I thought that way. But if I switched to or something like that, they would. Or maybe like, no, I really want to choose a whole different color combination. That's what the coloring sheet will help you do. So check all that out over at the website. Please join us this coming Wednesday for Wednesday Workshop Live, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time right here. We'll be talking about our quilt along, the next block, and sashing. And I've got some more interesting stuff, new stuff coming. So let me remind you, if you are a 2024 Quilt Lab subscriber and you have not joined for 2025, then please make sure you've downloaded all of your free stuff, gotten all of your blocks by the end of January 31st, because come February 1st, you will be removed from the online members only site. Okay. Now, if you've re-renewed for 2025, you'll be left alone. But some of those things like the blocks and stuff are going to come out. So please, last year's Quilts Lab people, download your stuff. Okay. Great. I don't want you to miss out. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Please subscribe, like, and share our channel with others. That's how this channel has grown so much. We're starting our 3rd year, and I am thrilled to be here with you once a week at least, with extra little videos thrown in, and every other week, twice a week live. And I'm loving designing the new blocks, sharing Build a Quilt with you, and quilting with you. That's my main joy, is that I get to quilt with you guys every week. So please subscribe. Excuse me. I'm joking. Subscribe, like, and share. It's a little click for you, but it means the absolute world to us here at Build a Quilt. Thank you all so much. And until next week, everybody, on Wednesday, remember, go quilt life beautiful. Bye for now. I'll be over in the comments for just a minute or so as soon as I sign off. Bye, everybody.